Good morning. Hello, and welcome back to Be Well Together. Today, we're actually going to focus on the Thrive and the Prosper pillars of Be Well. And we have not one, but two, double the fun experts to help us make strides in this area. So what we're going to talk about today is actually how to dial down extreme financial stress and how to make mindful financial decisions and master your core response to adversity. So let me introduce our guests to you. This is really quite a pleasure. We have two. The first is the financial maestro, Elyse Glink, who is a finance and real estate expert and a syndicated columnist and an award-winning TV and radio personality, and even a best-selling author, because all of that other things, that wasn't enough. She is the founder and CEO of Best Money Moves and Think Glink Media. But we also are lucky today, as I said, we have two people to welcome Dr. Paul Stoltz, who's one of the world's great leaders on resilience. And so he is the originator of the adversity quotient, the score that actually measures a person's ability to deal with adversity in their life. He is the author of 5 international best-selling books on the subject, his newest one being Grit, the New Science of What It Takes to Persevere, Flourish, and Succeed. So with that, I would love to welcome you both to Be Well Together, and I'm very excited and interested to learn from you.
Well, thank you, Jody. As you said, I'm Elyse Glink, and my whole life's work has been about helping people make smarter decisions with their money. And we are in a time that can only be described as never been here before. And I wanted just to thank you for welcoming into your life at what is certainly a moment of financial stress and uncertainty and nervousness around how we live our lives. Paul?
Thanks, Elyse. My name is Dr. Paul Stoltz. Hey, everybody. It's so great to be with you at this time in the world. My life's work for decades has been really helping to measure and equip people to go beyond surviving and coping, but to genuinely harness adversity and help your organizations do that all over the world for the greatest possible good. So Elyse and I are pairing up kind of like peanut butter and chocolate and putting this together and talking about how can we create the ultimate weave for you to help you be well and stay well and really flourish and prosper going forward. So Elyse, why don't I tag to you, start us off, and we'll make it happen.
That sounds great, Paul. Thank you. I'm going to present my screen. Hopefully screen sharing and technology is working, and we're going to give you about 20 minutes on how to identify and solve your money woes and bolster adversity quotient. One of the things that I want you to really think about as we're going through our very quick presentation is that whatever it is that you're doing in this world, when you do it mindfully, it always goes better. So that is also true when it comes to money, because when you're trying to master your money, you find that you typically will make almost crazy stopgap decisions, right? People get very, very stressed and they don't know really what way to turn. I find from my years of being a radio talk show host that when people would call me on the radio for my advice, what they would really start talking about are all of the other things going on in their lives. Because it turns out that when you're financially stressed, you almost can't do anything else. You certainly can't be present at work. You're hardly present at home. You stick your head in the sand and you really are just hoping that it's all going to go away. And the reason I started Best Money Moves after a whole career of being a syndicated columnist and money expert on TV was to give you something in your hand, because as you're completely stressed, we want you to turn inward, because at the end of the day, you have all the tools and brain power that you need to make about 95% of all the decisions that you can make with your money. 95%. You just have to believe that it's possible to do that. So I want to work on that today. Let me start with the employee experience, right? finances impact everything. And I know that all of you want to be fully engaged and you want to work for personal enrichment. But at the end of the day, if you're like most people, you're working because you have bills to pay, right? Your visa bill, your rent or mortgage, you've got kids that you're raising. Maybe you want to take a trip, you're paying down debt. And as you overlay all of those experiences, right, and things that you want to do with the employee life cycle, what you see is that even as you go in as a candidate, you're thinking about, can I make ends meet? And your onboarding experience, what benefits should I choose? All the way through training and development, or your total rewards, your personal leave, how it all works together to create an engaging experience that's financially rewarding. But it turns out that COVID-19 has changed everything. And if you or a loved one was affected by this, it's very likely, by the way, since more than half of all people in America are reporting loss of household income. The numbers are true across the world as well, right? It isn't just about what's going on in North America. It's going on everywhere, where shutdown of businesses, the disruption of the life that we had come to view as normal, and the way that we interact with people. I don't know about you, but our state in Illinois is where I'm from. We just began to open up yesterday, and we had our first group dinner of 10 people. We're only allowed to have 10 people together. And it felt so fun and familiar, right? Like I was recapturing a piece of my life. But there's nothing that's going to be as fast as that when it comes to fixing the money issues that have sprung up because of COVID. It's been extraordinarily damaging. And that in turn has made everybody extremely anxious about money, family, health, rebuilding. We're nervous about going back to work. We're nervous about staying home anymore. Almost don't know where we are in the world of the world that was our making, right? And I recognize, and I think our company recognizes, just in terms of the numbers of people who have been using our app over the last 8-10 weeks, over 700% growth in just having something that answers basic questions and helps you make smart decisions. So let's talk about extreme financial stress for a moment, right? Because how do you actually dial it down when typically you're only seeing a little piece of the puzzle? When people get extremely stressed financially, it's all the stuff that's going on below the surface that impacts the thing that's at the top of the heap. So you have to be able to identify what is actually causing the most amount of financial stress in your life. And then you have to look at all the other things that are feeding into it, because it's never just one thing. Maybe you're feeling stressed about your debt, but it's also because of the costs of raising your kids, and you've got insurance costs that are going up the wazoo for whatever reason, and maybe a spouse or partner lost their job, and maybe you've got another mouth to feed, or 2 or 3, because family members are now living with you, dealing with their own tough times. So recognizing that below the surface, you've got as much going on or more as what's going on that what you're even aware of is a first step towards making more mindful decisions about your money. So when we talk about measuring financial stress, we do it in Best Money Moves with the Stressometer, which is a lot of fun to just sort of move, and we do it in 15 categories. But you can list all of your financial stressors, and I do mean all of them, whether it's children and family, partner stress, somebody lost a job, maybe there's been a death, maybe there's been an illness that wasn't covered for whatever reason by your health insurance. Whatever those are, identify them, write them down. There is such a huge feeling of relief just to name these things. And then I want you to sort and prioritize them, because they're not all going to be as expensive, as important to you, even as the expenses of all of them are bubbling below the surface. You then need to identify solutions for the most pressing needs, right? Look to what your own company offers that can help you with that. Have it come to the forefront, make a list of those benefits, and then you can start to think about what your next move is going to be. And then finally, rinse and repeat, because at the end of the day, again, financial stress isn't one big thing sitting on your head and you're going to solve it and that's the end of it. As the sooner that you get rid of that expectation you're going to start to feel so much more relief, because this is a multi-layered problem that has been augmented by the worst economy the world has seen since the Great Depression 80 some years ago. This has been traumatic intellectually, emotionally, financially, right? So one of the things that I know makes everybody feel better is having cash on hand. And so as you're starting, once you've prioritized all of the stresses and all the things that you're thinking about, now I want you to think about all the where you can get cash. What can you sell to raise cash? Do you have access to your credit cards, and have you got a line of credit on there? Is there a salary linked loan that your company offers? 401k borrowing is always down on my list. Friends and family, emergency work benefits, where can you get cash if you need it? But the one thing I don't want you to do is guess. Mindful decisions are really important about focusing your energy and really understanding where the problem is and how you get to the right answer. So map out your income and expenses. Start at ground zero. Really think through every single dollar that you're spending. Find that cash, keep it handy in an account where it's easily accessible. And whatever you do, try in this time not to run up excessive credit card debt. Really keep expenses down to a bare minimum, even when you go back to work, even if you don't have a pay cut, if you haven't been furloughed, everything is okay. Because I'm not quite sure everything is okay just yet. And I want you to be ready in case the next shoe drops. So thank you so much for your time. I want to hand it over to Paul to talk a little bit more about adversity, your adversity quotient, and how to conquer your adversity whenever you can. Paul?
Thanks, Elyse. Really appreciate it. Great thoughts about, one of the most chronic, kind of least talked about sources of stress. We culturally keep it so private, don't we? And yet, we realize that this is something that keeps us up at night, especially in times of immense uncertainty for as far as we can see. So what do you do inside yourself right now? I mean, here we have this Be Well series, and you hear these words like stress and anxiety and setbacks and tragedies, even Jody's opening comments about the context of what's happening in the world right now and how it's spreading. You can feel that inside of you. Well, it turns out that real science, real research, and we're talking from across 21 different scientific disciplines, tell us that there is a key element, almost like the internal epicenter inside of us, that can have the single most radical effect on our ability to keep our stuff together, but even more than that, to be galvanized and fueled in the most potent and powerful ways during these adversity-rich times. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about that. And this has really been my life's obsession, if I may say, because what I really am is an excavator. And I've been trying to excavate down to what we kind of call the bedrock of human endeavor. So let's talk about that bedrock of human endeavor. And by the way, one thing I want to just offer up to you, and I know Elyse and I are going to offer this at the end, but in case we forget, I want to say it now. Please reach out to us on LinkedIn or whatever it is, and we welcome all of your questions, because this is like a high-speed wine tasting, right? I mean, we're just flying through this, and we've got some deep, nutritious meals that we can serve up to you in a really helpful way. So we're going to kind of go to that. So we have all these things, you hear these words. And our research, because we have a global research firm, is that the number of adversities you're facing in any given day for the past 30 years, as we've been tracking this globally, has gone up from 3 to 13 to 23 to 32 to 36 a day on average. And by the way, with women showing more than men on average, with no end in sight. So this is the weather we're navigating every single day in every kind of form. So the provocation I have for you is, what about you? What is your relationship with adversity? And I've noticed something really simple and profound, and that is, over the course of your years, either it consumes you or you consume it. And one really poignant form of that certainly is financial, as Elyse was laying out for you, right? So think about that, because where are you on this adversity continuum? Some people, as you can see right now, will do everything they can to avoid it. Maybe that's why alcohol has gone way up, right? There's a lot of things we do to try to avoid adversity. Right now, so many people, with everything that's going on in the world, are lucky to survive it, but have that sort of survival mindset. We just want to come out the other side. The one I hate the most is the one that's most popular in sort of the psychological world, which is coping. And we talk about coping with loss, coping with pain, coping with setbacks, coping. What I've discovered in my research is that there's so much more. Now, when I teach at Harvard or Stanford, at MIT or wherever where they use our stuff in their programs, or like next week when I'm going to be coaching all the coaches of all the sports of the Olympic teams for the US, a lot of them have been taught these protocols for managing adversity. You take a specific problem or issue and you try to manage your way effectively through it. Your company is probably trying to do that, right? But what I've discovered from it, measuring this element more than 1 million individuals around the world, is that we can learn from and begin to master what those at the top do every day. They do something fundamentally different. And this could be you. And I honestly know of nothing else that could have a bigger influence on your overall well-being. And that is this: like an alchemist, you take adversity and you convert it into fuel. The fuel that propels you to a place you never would arrive at without that adversity. We call that harnessing adversity. So just imagine for a moment, if instead of being normal, which is surviving and coping through something so hard and so big and so ubiquitous, that you could be weird in a good way, that you could be among the few who genuinely harnesses this adversity, uses this pandemic and everything that comes with it, including all the fraying of society that's happening in so many places right now, and use that to come out stronger and better and have those around you join you in that climb. Is there anything in the universe that prevents that from happening? So let's talk about this thing. If you go to your 25-year high school reunion, and let's face it, it's not the people with the highest IQs who go the furthest in life. And that's what the research shows. And that's a big relief for me. But this thing called your AQ, your adversity quotient, this thing we can measure, does predict an awful lot. So let's talk about what that is as we fly through this notion. And think about this in the context of what Elyse was talking about with any financial woes and concerns, and maybe beyond to your entire life. Your AQ is something you hardwired as a child. It's a hardwired pattern of response to adversity. It's how you respond to life's tough stuff. It's how you respond to life. So imagine you're walking around with this thing and it's been with you and inside of you all your life. What does it predict or drive? Now, here's the game we're going to play in about 2 seconds. I'm going to give you a flyby on what the science says that this predicts about you. Think about this in the context of your well-being. And then I'm going to ask you the big question, and it's going to go fast. So here are some of the things that the science of AQ has been shown in independent studies to correlate with or predict. Think about this with your well-being. It drives adaptability, happiness, optimism, energy, mindfulness, conviction, luck, and quality of life. These are measurable. People who score higher on AQ do measurably better on diet and exercise, fewer prescription drugs. They have better cardiorespiratory, GI, muscular, skeletal health. Hello. Those who score lower have triple the number of sick days, and they're sick twice as often. How does that affect your well-being? Competitive success, follower commitment, capacity to suffer. Those who score higher on AQ are promoted sooner. That's what the studies show. They achieve more goals. They set bigger goals. They deliver more value. They're more focused. There's that mindful part. They make a bigger contribution. They perform better, produce better, solve problems better. They have better capacity for risk. Think about that with money. Risk without stress. Resilience. It defines resilience. Tenacity, agility, etc., even longevity, how long you live. AQ is actually predictive of how long you live. And look at the one at the bottom there. Studies show that those who score higher on AQ actually have more money, generate more money, have better financial strength. So the big question is this, and I'm going to bring us back face to face to ask you this question. You ready for it? When you think of all the factors that drive your happiness, well-being, and success, and the success of your enterprise, which ones are in some way affected by your AQ? Well, if your answer inside yourself is the same answer we hear everywhere in the world, your answer, even begrudgingly, is sort of like, well, all of them. So this is the thing that we can focus on and master that affects, drives, and enriches everything else. So what does it come down to? First of all, I want you to know this. We know definitively from doing this work with 1 million people in 137 countries that you can measurably and permanently improve your AQ. And that comes down to this. What the science shows us and what common sense has proven in real behavior is think about your core response to your finances and to every adversity you have. Control, ask this question. To what extent do you perceive you can influence whatever happens next? Well, people with higher AQs focus on and find the things they can instead of falling into that pit of learned helplessness. Ownership. Where and how can you step up now and every day to gain the most immediate positive traction? Those who do that are more resilient. Reach. How do you minimize the downside? You've heard Elyse mention some things you can do financially to contain the potential fallout. But how do you maximize? How do you maximize the potential upside of this pandemic? There's a question no one asks, but that's the Powerball. And then finally, endurance. CORE is about what can you be doing now to help get through this as effectively, completely, holistically, and powerfully and quickly as possible. You own your core response no matter what the adversity. And if you master that, you can master your life, you can master your contribution, and you can master your well-being. So how about if we turn it back to you? Welcome your questions now, and also any questions that you don't have a chance to have answered. I guarantee you personally that Elyse and I will respond to those. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we want to continue the conversation because never has this mattered more than now.
That's great. Thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts. I really, really appreciate it. I guess I want to just start with a question. With a question for you, Dr. Stoltz. I love the spirit of harnessing and really, taking the reins and turning the adversity into a massive learning opportunity. I think that's really beautiful and certainly something I have leaned into through the years. But I guess I'm curious about your thoughts, about that at this particular moment in time, when I am just so mindful of, how many of my friends and peers and colleagues, they don't feel like they can control this situation. And they don't feel like they can harness anything because they feel in a very real and validated way, like, the communities are and societies are not supportive of them and they're under attack. Mm-hmm. And I question, when I was looking at that mountain and kind of growing through it and getting through the different phases, how much time do you allow yourself to really be present and to really grieve the reality of the situation?
Great question.
Before you, because you can't just jump into harnessing. These are very real, awful times for a great number of people.
Great point, Jody, and thank you for that question. The bigger question here is, how do we interface with these really abject adversities? The perception is, so we have this big, beautiful bell curve. You measure 1 million AQs around the world, and you have this big, beautiful bell curve. And out toward the end, on the high end, people sometimes think, well, these extreme examples of extreme AQs, are they like not even real? Like, are they insensitive? Or do they not grieve? Do they not suffer? Do they not whatever? Here's my observation doing this work for 40 years, and that is this. The people with the highest AQs can suffer all the way down. They can grieve all the way down. They just don't stay down as long, and they tend to make better use of it. So they put
so that's, I
that,
think it's a really important point. So you're not saying, hey, don't grieve, don't go
oh
down.
gosh,
Like,
no.
we're human. Like, you're going to feel this. You can't just, fake harness your way through it.
No, and that's why I'm not a big fan of motivational happy talk, because it's sort of this paint job we do to go, "Yeah, I'm okay, you'll be all right, we can get through this, it's going to be good." Bull. It's just not the way the world works. This is real, it's hard, it's painful, it's adverse. But now the question becomes, given that, what do we do with it? It's like I've been saying to people, what's your PPP? Are you going to do a pandemic panic pivot? Or are you going to do a pandemic power pivot? Are you ultimately going to use this to come out healthier, clearer, stronger, more focused, more prioritized, and your organization? Is there a chance to rekindle the purpose, the vision, the values in a way that you never would have if this hadn't happened?
Yeah.
And what about our contribution in humanity? And by the way, because you're a leader, and a lot of people on this are leaders in some way, meaning you influence other people, think about how your response, your core response, influences others' well-being as well. And that applies to Elyse's part about the financial thing as well. We can all lead.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking about. So I like that power pivot. So Elyse, from the power pivot, I really liked what you were saying about, not running up credit card debt and trying to keep that cash available, in accessible accounts. Are there, with the goal, like I guess the goal, the kind of one of the goals that I'm taking away is like, try not to come out of this worse than you were. try to persevere in a way that is going to set yourself up for success when we get to the other side of this. And I was just wondering, are there any other things that you would want people to keep in mind of maybe some of those small wins, that you can get on a daily basis to know that, like, I'm doing the best I can. This is what I did for myself financially today.
I think keeping track of all of the little wins, all of the things that you did that didn't blow up your budget, didn't blow up your life, things that didn't go awry. These days, we need every positive bit of reinforcement that we can pull in for ourselves as much as we're pushing out to everybody else. But I want to acknowledge the reality. You may still have your job, but your spouse or partner may not. And that's going to mean some very tough choices. But on the other side, if you're willing to make those choices today and they'll work for you, then you are setting yourself up for a much bigger win on the other side when this is all over and we go back to some sort of life, because you know that you can get through the tough times. It's what Paul talks about all the time, right? If you're facing, and money is about as adverse a situation other than health, personal health, and oftentimes those two things go right hand in hand. But if you can survive this financially, you will have such huge reserves of knowledge and really understanding about what it takes to get through this world on a material basis. It will change you forever, and I think for the better, because we've all become a little too reliant on our lifestyle choices instead of what's really important, which is what's deep down inside. And as I often say to people when they talk to me about their lives, your house, it isn't really about looking like HGTV, right? Your house is the home that you build with your four walls, your ceiling, your floor, and the family that's inside of it. And I don't care what color the paint is, I don't care what's on the outside, and I don't care what kind of couch you sit in. The fact that you and your loved ones are together and connected, at the end of the day, is what's really important. Not how the material looks and what it looks like on Instagram. Just not as important. And I think we're all learning that lesson again.
Oh, girl, preach and amen, and just major love for that. Thank you both so much for joining us today. I think this was a really, really important conversation, and I am very grateful for your time. So thank you all. Everyone, please, please take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll be back here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.